Greetings, I'm Professor Hobo, and welcome to another HOBOTECH News product review. The largest portable power station to ever hit the market just landed on planet Earth with a 5,000 watt inverter and support for 18,000 watt hours of battery power. It's the new, incredibly massive AC500 from Bluetti. But is it any good? Let's find out. HOBOTECH. Now the AC500, just like its previous little brother, the AC300, is a fully modular design. This one allows you to add up to 6 3,072 watt hour batteries, and these are lithium iron phosphate rated at 3,500 cycles to 80%, for a total capacity of over 18 kilowatt hours. Now each battery just on its own has its own 12 volt 10 amp cigarette lighter output, a single 18 watt quick charge USB port, and a single USB-C 100 watt power delivery port. Each battery can be independently charged with either AC power, solar, or 12 volts, and get this, each battery will self-heat when plugged into the grid or an AC adapter when the temperature drops below freezing, and this allows you to charge the battery down to -4 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the world's first truly portable solar generator that can self-heat its own batteries when temperatures go below freezing. Now what about size and weight? The AC500 head unit has no built-in batteries, so it is a little bit lighter than the battery itself. But it does actually require at least one of these batteries to be hooked up. In this case, this is the B300S. This does support the older B300 battery from the AC300 series. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the weights for the AC500 head unit and battery separately down here in the description along with the dimensions. As for build quality, both the AC500 and B300S, from now on referred to as the combo, have aluminum frames inside surrounded by ABS plastic. All the inputs and outputs, as you can see, have covers on them to protect them from dust and moisture. And of course the AC500, like all the previous big Bluettis, has the same very familiar color touchscreen that allows you to control pretty much everything on it, along with a remote app interface in case something happens to the screen or you just want to access it without having to tap on here. Now the battery itself only has a stated charge battery indicator, which shows 5 lights.
There are 4 lights!
Now as for the inverter size, the AC500 combo breaks new ground in the solar generator market with an insane 5,000 watt pure sine inverter capable of a 10 kilowatt surge. It sports 3 20 amp AC outlets, a 30 amp twist lock outlet, a 30 amp RV hookup, and another world first, a 50 amp RV hookup. Yep, you heard me right. This can not only supply 50 amp service to the largest RVs and motorhomes available today, but it can also supply 240 volts to large home appliances like clothes dryers, ovens, well pumps, and mini split systems when paired up with another AC500 in split phase mode. As for ways to charge, the AC500 can charge it up to 5,000 watts from AC grid power. There is no brick here, it's just a straight cable going into the generator. And to charge at 5,000 watts, you're going to have to supply 240 volts. This unit does natively support grid charging with both 120 and 240 volts. With no special adapters, no special updates required. Now at that rate, it can charge one of these 3 kilowatt batteries to 80% in just 50 minutes. Or if you have 6 of these hooked up, it can do it in around 4 hours. And if that's not fast enough, it supports 3,000 watts of solar using 2 1,500 watt MPPT controllers. And then they include this cable, which allows you basically to input 2 completely separate solar arrays. So you can have 12 to 150 volts up to 1,500 watts on each pair of these. And then this cable plugs in over here on the side. This is a special aviation adapter. But this allows you to do 3,000 watts of solar charging and that will let you charge one of these 3 kilowatt hour batteries from dead to full in about an hour and a half. And if that's still not fast enough, you just need some help, man. Oh, actually, it will simultaneous charge from 5,000 watts on the wall plus 3,000 watts from solar at the same time for a combined 8,000 watts. Now you have to have at least 2 batteries for this to happen, otherwise it cuts you off at around 6,500 watts. This is faster than any power station on the market to date, and it makes it possible to charge the entire 18 kilowatt hour battery bank of 6 of these in just over 2.5 hours. Do note that the AC500 is backwards compatible with the older B300 batteries, but you can only use 4 of those. And you can mix and match. You can have like 2 of these, 2 of the older B300s, 3 of the older B300s, and 1 of these. Mix and match up to 4. Now, as for 12 volt output types, the AC500 is a little unique, and as it doesn't actually have any 12 volt cigarette lighter sockets built into it. But it does, however, have this built-in 12 volt, 30 amp output, good for just over 400 watts, using this special cable. So again, you use an aviation connector, plug that in here. This side can either be XT60 or Anderson. So you can actually plug the XT60 into this Anderson adapter, and now you have an Anderson output. And you can use this for various things. For example, if you're doing a van build, you put in a 12 volt fuse box, which of course you would. You can actually hook this Bluetti up to that fuse box through Anderson, or if you prefer, XT60, and then power all your 12 volt appliances. So that's what that output is for. Now, what if you have a 12 volt refrigerator? You just want to plug a refrigerator into this thing. Well, it does actually have a single 24 volt cigarette lighter output. Now, most, if not all, of the compressor refrigerators on the market support both 12 and 24 volts. Actually, 24 volts is a little more efficient. You'll get a better connection, you can use a thinner cable. The compressor runs a little more efficiently on 24 volts than 12 volts, so you'll actually save a little bit of power. Now, what if you need 12 volts? Now, say you have a CPAP machine or other 12 volt appliance that does not support 24 volts. You're not SOL. In fact, each of the B300S batteries has one of these 12 volt 10 amp cigarette lighter sockets. So just plug your refrigerator, CPAP, whatever into this, and you're good to go. There's actually a DC input on the side. It's an XT90 connector, supports from 12 to 60 volts, 10 amps, which allows you to charge from solar. So you can charge these batteries individually with solar panels, which is, again, very unique on the market. EcoFlow, for example, doesn't allow you to charge their batteries whatsoever outside of the EcoFlow system, where Bluetti allows you to do anything you want. This also has a standard 58 volt input on the side for plugging in one of the Bluetti chargers, good for up to 500 watts. You can also use an adapter that allows you to plug additional solar into this port, so you can kind of double your solar if you really want to charge one of these batteries quickly. And yes, these inputs do work independently of the charging coming from the AC500. Now, what about USB output types? Now, the AC500 head unit has a pair of standard USB ports, a pair of 18 watt quick charge ports, and a pair of 100 watt power delivery ports. Note, these are all output only, and the AC500 does not support charging by USB power delivery input. Now, what about wireless charging? Virtually all modern Bluetti products, including this combo, do have some form of wireless charging. This actually has a pair of 15 watt wireless charging pads up top. As for other features, this state-of-the-art machine of course supports the cool Bluetti app, which allows you to remotely control the AC500 from just about anywhere. If you don't want to use Wi-Fi or sign up for their cloud services, you don't have to. You can simply go into the settings and turn off the Wi-Fi and not use it at all. You can also turn off the Bluetooth. Say you're not going to use the Bluetooth at all, you don't want to waste the power, you can turn that off too. However, to use the app, you have to have one or the other turned on. So if you want to not use their cloud service, you don't want to sign up for anything, all you have to do is install the app, turn on the Bluetooth, and then you just go in as a guest, and you'll see this pop up instantly. Click on it, boom, you're in. There's no sign up, no other mumbo jumbo, no red tape to get in and use your new product. As for the warranty, Bluetti is offering a class-leading 3-year warranty on this product. So you can rest assured if you have a problem, they'll take care of it. And of course, we took the AC500 into my secret laboratory here where we performed all kinds of crazy experiments on it, including, yes, a double-fisted battery capacity test. The results of the DC battery capacity test, it scored 2,300 watt-hours out of 3072 for 75%. Now, while that is not the best result, it is kind of typical for these larger Bluetti products that offer that high amp 12-volt regulated output. These high amp outputs really gobble up a lot of power in the background even when you're not using them. Now, it did score better on the AC test with 2,500 watt-hours out of 3072 for 81%. I did repeat this test with the second battery that Bluetti sent to me, and I got identical results both times. So there was no issues with the battery or anything like that. And I did update this to the latest firmware. Now, one of the things Bluetti is really good at is updating their firmware. They like to add new features, make it more efficient. They do all kinds of stuff to these products as they roll out. I wouldn't be surprised that by the time you get your hands on one of these numbers will actually be better. Now, let me give you an example. When I did the same exact test on the AC300 and battery with the latest firmware, I actually scored 90% on that product. So this one got 81%, that one got 90%, and that's an older product. So I'm betting that firmware updates in the future are going to make that number more efficient. But also, that extra 9% loss could be due to this 5,000 watt inverter. The AC300 only has a 3,000 watt inverter. This has a 5,000 watt inverter, almost twice the size. And when you have a larger inverter, you waste more power. Now, if you dig into the menu on the AC500, you're going to find a feature that doesn't exist on any other Bluetti product. It's called deep discharge. And no, this is not a late night skin flick on HBO, but it's actually a feature that lets you deep discharge the battery in an emergency situation. This allows you to eke out a few more percentage points from the battery in exchange for life cycles, because when you deep discharge, you're going to do a tiny, tiny little bit of damage to the battery. You do that over and over and over again over a number of years, yeah, you're going to wreck the battery. So that's why it's an option you have to physically turn on every single time you want to use it. Now, Bluetti is obviously being quite conservative when it comes to their capacity numbers in order to extend the life of the battery under warranty. So to give you that 3-year warranty, they're cutting back a little bit on the capacity to make the battery last longer, because the last thing they want is at 2 years and 11 months in, everybody returning their AC500 for dead batteries. Here's sine wave check under load. We're running at about a 2,000 watt load. Let's see what the sine wave looks like. Sine wave looks great, 118 volts at 60 hertz. Inverter capacity test. This is where we determine how much power can we pull out of the Bluetti's 5,000 watt inverter. So this is a challenge because they give us 320 amp outlets. We're pretty much going to have to max that out to go beyond 5,000 watts, which means none other than dun, 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 the solar degenerator. Let's fire it up. Hey, fire it up, fire it up, fire it up. You can see the wattage right there. It says 4769 right now. Let's add some solar degenerator to that. Hey, we're at 51, 53, 54. We're now getting a warning. 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 6,000 watts, 6,100. Okay, at 6,100, it shuts down. Next test is the 5-minute sustained cooling, or what I call the heat soak test. This is where we run the inverter at or above its rated capacity for at least 5 minutes to see, does it overheat? Does it start smoking or doing drugs? Doesn't do anything out of the ordinary. Start making weird noises or whatever. Start smelling funny. So I currently have this running at 5,400 watts, which is 400 watts above its rated capacity. But after the alarm started beeping and I cleared it, it's still running. It's just making beeping noises, but it's still going. So let's see if we can run this for a full 5 minutes at 5,400 watts. That would be pretty incredible, but let's give it a try. At 5,400 watts, we only made it 30 seconds before it shut down. All right, there we are, 5,000 watts. Let's see if we can make it to full 5 minutes. And there we have it, 5 minutes at 5,000 watts. So 5,000 sustained watts for at least 5 minutes is now a new power record on the HOBOTECH channel. Congratulations, Bluetti, on a fantastic inverter. Now, while the fan's running on full blast on the Bluetti, let's measure and see how loud it is. So about 64 decibels. Now the fan is kind of loud when it's on high, but it didn't kick on high until about 4 minutes in. Now the fan just kicked on low. Let's do a remeasurement when the fan is on low. Now this is one of the big differences between Bluetti and EcoFlow. EcoFlow is a much louder product. They have much louder fans in their units. Bluetti is actually one of the quietest on the market. Their fans only kick on full blast when absolutely necessary, when they're under full load. Otherwise, they're very pleasant. They use pretty large, slow-moving fans, smart fans that adjust the speed depending on how hot the unit is. So very good cooling with the Bluetti AC500. This next test is the max charge rate test, where we determine how much power can we pump into this thing. Now it supports a whopping 5,000 watts of AC input. Now in order to get that much power into this, you have to put it in at 240 volts. So yes, this does actually support 240 volt charging. In fact, I use the regular 120 volt charging cable since they didn't give me the charging cable for 240 volts. I'm cheating this test a little bit, but I want to prove to you guys that this will in fact charge at 5,000 watts. So I have this cable going to a setup I have over in the corner that can output 6,000 watts at 240 volts. So I'm going to go ahead and turn all that on. And we're going to go ahead and see how much power can we get into this through the AC. Now, here's one of the things. Bluetti from the factory does limit you how much power you can input on this. So what you can actually do is go into the setup screen, and I'll zoom in on this. So you can go into the setup screen where it says max current, click on settings, then click on advanced mode. And Bluetti wants you to email them for a password. They're only going to give this to you if you know what you're doing. So I'm not going to give you the password because they asked me not to give it out, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in. Okay, once you put in the secret password, you get this new screen which gives you options from 10 amps to 50 amps. So I set it to 50 amps, and then on the next screen you can actually limit the maximum output power. So for some reason you want to set it to 3,000, you can set it to 3,000, but of course I'm setting it to 5,000 because I'm maxing this thing out for my tests. We have that completely set up. And let me just go through these settings very quickly for you, because if you haven't had a Bluetti before, this is going to be new to you. If you have one, it's going to look familiar. So on the first settings screen, you can set the output voltage, 120 volts, 60 hertz. You have two input sources. So you can set them both to PV, which is solar, or others, which is for car and stuff like that, or charging from a battery. PV will allow you to charge at a higher voltage. Click on next. Eco mode, you can this will actually turn off AC loads after 4 hours. I recommend leaving that off unless you really need it. Machine type single or split phase. So if you actually want to use this 50 amp RV output, you need to have two of these units and put them in split phase to get 240 volts. UPS, there are 4 different UPS systems on this. I'm not going to go through it here. Almost everybody leaves it on standard UPS. Silent mode, on or off. If you put it on, it will run the fans at a quieter speed, but also does limit you on your input and output. So I leave that off. We just saw what the max current settings does. Next screen, PV parallel enable. This allows you to join the two inputs together. If you want to have higher amps on your solar panels, you put that on. Powerlifting, that's Bluetti's way of allowing you to run higher wattage appliances. When you only have a 5,000 watt inverter, for example, you can run a 6,000 watt appliance. Completely unnecessary when you have this much power, so leave that off unless you really need it. Never run powerlifting if on an air conditioner, refrigerator, or anything with electric motor or computer chip. Deep discharge, on or off. What this does is this will actually allow you to hit on only when you're at 0% of the battery. So if you completely kill the battery and you need an emergency boost, you can click on and it will allow you to go below 0% charge, but it will damage the battery slightly every time you do it. So I would leave that off unless you really need it. Oh, buzzer setting means the alarm, so you can turn the actual beep of the alarm on or off. Touch sound on or off, that's self-explanatory. Bluetooth on or off. Bluetooth, it'll tell you the mode of connect or disconnect. You can turn Wi-Fi on or off. Same thing with the Wi-Fi state. Backlight brightness, you can turn this up or down. You can see right there, it actually gives you lighter or darker. Next screen, you can tell it, when do you want the screen to sleep? 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, or never. I leave it never because I like to leave my screen on. There's a factory restore and a date and time setting. So it seems as though as the years go on with Bluetti, these screens get more and more complicated. Of course, you have your data screen, which shows you product info, firmware, BMS versions, stuff like that. You can go through these screens, input and output watts. This is for every input on the system, so it tells you everything that's going on. Here's your BMS, your battery information, tells you which of the 6 batteries you have plugged in, tells you your alarm history, and right here you can clear the alarms if you have alarms. If you go overboard on anything, you can go ahead and do that. And a lot of this is repeated in the app. Now that we have this set up for 5,000 watt input by setting the advanced settings to 50 amps, and let's see, are we going to get 5,000 watts input, which would be another new record on the channel. Okay, let's go ahead and do the input here. You'll see it comes up 240 volts. 240 volts, 60 hertz, 5,000 watts input AC power from 240 volts, a new record on HOBOTECH. So there we go, broke another record on HOBOTECH. That's 2 records in one video. Now 5,000 watts input at 240 volts means you can actually level 2 charge this from an EV charging station. All you need is the Bluetti EV charging adapter, which is usually unavailable. It's hard to get. Okay, we're now going to test the maximum solar input on this. The AC500 supports up to 3,000 watts of solar, but that's split between 2 controllers, so each controller can do 1,500 watts from 12 to 150 volts. I have my variable voltage 3,000 watt charger set to 149 volts, and the maximum I think this will do is 20 amps. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm splitting the output of this into 2 separate inputs on the Bluetti. Now, why is that necessary? Because Bluetti's cabling, they give you 2 pairs. One's marked PV1 and the other one's marked PV2. This is designed for 2 sets of solar panels. So you can put 150 volts up to 15 amps on one and 150 volts up to 15 amps on 2. So I'm just using a parallel adapter to just split the output into the input of the AC500. So you can see here I have 150 volts coming in 2 separate lines, and we're doing 2,300 watts. Now I just said 2,500 watts a second ago, but you can see I do hit 2,500 watts on occasion. There we go. 25, 24. You can see my variable voltage charger is going wonky right now because this is not how I'm supposed to be using it. All right, so the next question is, what happens when I turn on the 5,000 watt AC wall charging on top of the solar charging? Do they combine? $4,000 in from AC and 2,500 in from PV, 6,500 watts of combined charging. I think that's going to be a limit on the Bluetti itself because this is normally 5,000. Let me go ahead and turn off the solar. And boom, it instantly goes up to 5,000. Let's put the solar back on. Yep, this goes down. So the limit is 6,500 watts total input. So 6,500 watts total input combined between AC and solar. again, I think is a new record. I think the EcoFlow Delta Pro gets kind of close to that number, but this is the first time in practice I've ever seen it. Pushing 5,000 in from the wall, then another 2,500 in from solar. Now the solar does support 3,000 watts. I think my setup is the problem, not the Bluetti. That will allow you to charge this battery in like 30 minutes. It's ridiculously fast. Now, obviously, if you have 6 batteries hooked up to this, you just multiply that by 6. So you can charge all 6 batteries in about 3 hours. That is epic. That's epic speed to charge 18 kilowatts worth of batteries. Now the AC500 does have a built-in UPS relay, UPS standing for uninterruptible power supply. That means you can plug a load in, which we have this heater plugged in to the AC output. We have the inverter turned on. We do have the AC500 ready to be plugged into external power. What this is going to do is going to allow the power coming in from the wall to go into the AC500, bypass the battery, come straight out of the outlet to feed the heater. What we're going to test is to see how fast is that switchover. When the power goes out in your house, how fast will the AC500 switch over? Is it fast enough for a computer, TV, sensitive electronics? If this light blinks really off and on, and you could see it visibly, it's probably not that good for computers. But if you barely see it flicker, that means you could probably run a computer on it, no problem. So let's find out. Okay, from you can see up here, that little green light bulb means that we are in UPS mode. So right now, power's coming into the grid and going out of the outlets. Now let's go ahead and watch this light and see how fast it blinks. Ready? 3, 2, 1. I didn't see it blink at all, did you? Okay, let's do that again because I didn't see it blink at all. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I don't see it blink. Now I watched it with my own naked eye instead of watching it through the viewfinder of the camera. The blink is probably 1 or 2 milliseconds. I can just barely see it. It's really, really fast. This is one of the fastest switchovering UPS solar generators I've ever seen. Usually you'll get some kind of blink, but I had to do it 3 times to see it. So this is definitely sensitive enough to use for a personal computer. So if you use a personal computer and you leave it plugged into this all the time, and you leave this plugged in all the time, when you get a power outage, it's going to switch over so fast it won't even be an issue. Now for your information, I have 3 Bluetti EB3As. That's the tiny little 600 watt solar generator that has a UPS. Now, I'm sure some of the technology is shared between the two. That little 600 watt model switches over fast enough for my very high-end video editing PC. No problems whatsoever. I run one on there 24 hours a day. Now that switchover time is definitely a little bit more than the switchover time on this. This is fantastic. So if you're looking for something that can switch over sensitive equipment, this is going to be what you want to get. DC output rate check. We're hooked up to the 24 volt output. Yes, this does have a 24 volt output, good for 10 amps or 240 watts. Unfortunately, this little tester cuts off around 215 watts or so. So let's see how high we can actually push this. So default voltage coming out is 25.3 volts. Let's go ahead and crank this all the way up. It's only going to let me do 9.5 amps. It's not really letting me crank it any higher than that, but as you can see, it definitely supports at least 9.25 amps. So we saw 9.5 amps there for a split second. It's really a limitation of this device. You can see 215 watts. It's just not letting me exceed it. So yes, we know the Bluetti 10 amp output is going to output at least 10 amps. So now let's go ahead and switch over to the dedicated 12 volt on the B300S battery. You'll see here it is a regulated 13.4 volts. Let's go ahead and crank it up. We should be able to get 10 amps on here pretty easily. As you can see, we're pulling 10 amps at about 11.5 volts. So again, no problem. What about the 12 volt 30 amp output that is on the AC500? Now, I've already tested that because if you watch the time lapse, that's the output I actually used for the DC time lapse because I could pull about 300 watts out of that, which is what I did. So we already know that the 12 volt 30 amp output works as stated. So all the 12 and 24 volt outputs on this, thumbs up. They all meet or exceed the rated limit. Now let's go ahead and check out the USB ports. Now we have a pair of dinosaur ports. We don't care about those. We got a pair of 18-watt quick charge ports. Again, we know those are going to work. It's not a big deal. But there are a pair of 100-watt power delivery ports, so we do have to check and make sure that both of those output 100 watts simultaneously. For testing the USB outputs, we're using a pair of power bends which can charge at 100 watts each. So let's go ahead and turn on the USB and see, do we get 200 watts? And yes, we do. You could see DC output power is 191 watts. And of course, Bluetti does provide app support for their AC500 product. I've been over this app a bunch of times on all the other Bluetti products. I'm not going to go over it again. This is what it looks like. You pretty much have full control over the app. Most of the same stuff you can do on the touchscreen interface. You can turn it on and off and stuff like that and see what's going in and out and state of charge, things like that. I'm not going to cover it. This video is going to be long enough. If you want to see details of the app, go back to my last 3 or 4 Bluetti reviews, and I do have app review in there. Now, Bluetti does offer a pair of wireless charging pads on the top. I'll just show you that it does work by turning on the DC source. Listen for the beep. There we go, beep. That means it is wirelessly charging. Musician's favorite amp interference test. What we test to find out, is the AC500 good for things like ham radio and amplifiers? Well, hey, let's find out. All I'm gonna do is turn on the AC inverter. It's gonna send power to this. All the knobs are turned up, nothing's plugged into it. Will we get a hum or not? As expected, perfectly quiet. Bluetti's inverters are some of the best on the market. If you're looking for something to rock out with your band or play on a PA system used for ham radio, this is actually a really good inverter and a really good and powerful 12 volt DC source, allowing you to run all kinds of amplifiers and things like that without any noise coming through the speakers or headphones. Now, what don't I like about the AC500? Well, first I have to say I really wish Bluetti would put forth more effort into reducing the background power consumption of these units. Some of the higher end competition is scoring 85%, 90% or better on these same capacity tests. Even the older AC300 unit, like I mentioned before, scored 90%. I know it's not my testing. I know it's not a problem with the battery this time because they sent me 2 and I got identical results on both batteries. I did do the AC test around 1000 watts or 0.3 C for those nerds out there that want to know those numbers. That should be pretty ideal. I think the issue here is the large inverter is just wasting a lot of power to run. Now, when I saw this 50 amp hookup, when I first saw pictures of this product, I really got excited, and I bet you did too. However, there is no mention whatsoever anywhere, not even in the book, that it requires 2 AC500 head units for this outlet to work. So yes, it's completely useless, doesn't work. You do get power on one leg. You get 120 volts on one side, but nothing on the other side. So what they're doing is they're using this unit to power one lead and then the other AC500 to power the other lead. That gives you 240 volts, and that's what you need for a 50 amp RV hookup. Now, this isn't just for RVs. Obviously, you can use this to power home appliances that require 240 volts, water heaters, dryers, stoves, mini splits, stuff like that. That's 240 volts. But I was really hoping that Bluetti broke the 120 volt, 240 volt barrier with this product, and then they had an inverter that could do both, but not yet. Still wishing one of these days someone's gonna come out with a solar generator that can do both 120 and 240 at the same time. But don't be discouraged, because both of these 30 amp outputs, the twist lock and the 30 amp RV, they both work perfectly fine because they only are 120 volt outlets. So yes, you can plug your 30 amp RV into this, pull a full 30 amps. This will actually supply way more than 30 amps. But you can safely pull 30 amps out of here while you're pulling power out of these at the same time. I mean, this thing is really powerful. So yeah, run your RV on the 30 amp output on this, And you can plug a couple of other things here into these regular 20 amp outlets. Now, my last gripe, it's about these big honking cables, okay? You see these big honking inflexible cables? I'm getting kind of tired of them, to be honest. Now I know EcoFlow does the same thing. All the other older Bluetti products do the same thing, but guys, when can we get rid of this? There's a very simple solution to not using these cables, and that's let's go vertical instead of horizontal, right? All you have to do is put some pins in here. When you set the head unit on the battery, a couple pins go in, some thick, high amp pins, allows you to transfer power between the head unit and the battery. The battery could have pins on the bottom and top, allow you to stack batteries, because we're all going to stack these anyway, right? You're not going to put them side by side. I've actually seen one other power station do this before. They didn't make it into the market, but it actually worked. It was a feasible solution. So why Bluetti or no one else has actually engineered this is kind of beyond me, but hopefully in the future we'll see something that doesn't require these big, stupid, clunky cables. I mean, you can even do big Anderson power pole connections that snap together from top to bottom. I mean, there's multiple ways to transfer power between these units that don't require this cable. So let's hope that in the future Bluetti will innovate and come up with a way to get rid of these cables. Now that takes me to what I do like about the AC500, and there's really a lot to love here. You simply can't beat this inverter or the massive charge rate anywhere else. You just can't. It makes the next best solar battery generator look pretty lame in comparison. So if you're looking for a home backup solution, power for a tiny home, cabin, or something to power your RV when off the grid, there just really isn't a better all-in-one plug-and-play solution. Now, I can hear the keyboard warriors already typing away.
But Hobo, I can build my own out of potatoes and chewing gum for half the price of that monstrosity. And when something breaks, I can just fix it myself with duct tape like MacGyver. Those generator things are a total ripoff. You should be ashamed of yourself for giving people options.
Yeah, I get it. You're so proud of your DIY skills. Well, the rest of the general public just wants a simple plug-and-play solution for their power needs. Is a Bluetti for everyone? Absolutely not. If you want to power a full-size residential property, totally off the grid, 24/7, 365, with a massive solar array, you should definitely have a custom system built. That's actually what I'm doing on my own property, and it's taken me over a year so far to get it done. Anyone that tells you you can DIY a complete home backup system in 10 minutes is full of crap. A Bluetti may not be the perfect solution, but it can be a really good solution for most looking to run the basics during a blackout. There are many folks out there right now running tiny homes and cabins 100% of the time off of a Bluetti. In fact, I have a friend doing this right now, and he mods my Facebook group, the HOBOTECH Crew. So come on in and ask any questions you may have about using a Bluetti off the grid to power your needs. We'll be able to answer some of those questions for you. So one of the things I do like about this combo, instead of having just one unit with a big battery in it, when you get these B300Ss, you get all these extra outputs. So every time you add a battery, you get more outputs. And seeing that these batteries can be charged independently without the head unit means you don't even have to buy the head unit. Say you only need DC output. You just want a big battery to power DC stuff, USB 12 volt. You can just buy this battery because you can charge it separately with an AC charger that you can buy from Bluetti, or if you have an older Bluetti that has the regular 8mm charger, you can just go ahead and plug that in and charge the battery independently. You can plug solar into this. This can take 3 panels in series, and you can charge this thing independently. Now I'm going to do a separate video on this battery eventually and show you all the cool stuff you can do with it and all the different ways you can charge it, because Bluetti has a lot of accessories for these batteries. It allows you to actually dual solar charge, or you can dual wall charge, and you can do all kinds of fun stuff with this. So this battery deserves its own video, and I'll do that in the future. And don't forget the coolest feature of this battery, the fact that it will self-heat. So you can charge it down to -4 degrees. That's something that people have been complaining about for years. I don't want to buy one of these all-in-one units because it's useless under freezing conditions, and I live in the Arctic Circle or Antarctica or on a fishing boat, and I'm crab fishing and I need my Bluetti, but it will never charge because it's too cold. Well, guess what? Problem solved. So what can it power? Virtually anything. By itself, it can run several of the most demanding household appliances like microwaves, refrigerators, vacuum cleaners, air conditioners, all at the same time. And when paired together for 240 volts, you get up to 10,000 watts of power, good for running the biggest household appliances like 240 volt stoves, clothes dryers, even small electric water heaters. This is the first all-in-one product on the market that can actually do all that. Now, as for recommended solar, I recommend just getting as much solar as you can afford. If you're using this Bluetti in a mostly portable environment, then look into their own PV350 panels. Those are 350 watts. You can throw a whole bunch of them onto this unit and charge it up really fast. Now, if you're in a more permanent environment, you'll probably want to get glass panels because they're just more robust and they last longer and they're cheaper overall. Renogy does have some really good 320 watt panels in stock. I just got a bunch of them myself. I'm going to be doing some tests on them. And BOUGERV offers 200 watt panels. They're really good and really affordable. And those are a little bit easier to manage because they're smaller, easier to lift up and move around, less of an issue in the wind. Now, I do have a discount for Bluetti, Renogy, and BOUGERV solar panels on hobotech.tv/Amazon under Solar Kits. Now, what about product price? Bluetti has decided for some reason to crowdfund this product on Indiegogo. And for those of you who don't understand how crowdfunding works, it's basically a form of pre-ordering the product for a later delivery. However, early bird gets the worm, meaning the first to pledge get the best price. This video is launching just before the campaign begins, so by the time you finish watching this video, you'll get the best available price right now. And as time goes on, the price will keep going up until the campaign ends. Eventually, this product will appear on Bluetti's homepage. That's probably going to be a few months away. And by then, it's going to be going for a retail price. So if you want the best price, you're going to want to jump in on this early. Bluetti is a very trustworthy brand, and you can rest assured you're going to get a good product for your money. Okay, I know I can hear the screaming already. Professor, how much? Well, wait till you hear this. This is actually a really crazy, fantastic deal. The super early bird price, meaning the price this is launching at when this video comes out, is only $29.99, and that's for the AC500 plus one of these batteries. Now, of course, there's different combos. You can get just this, the combo together. You can get this with 2 batteries, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're probably going to have all kinds of combinations on the page. I don't know what it looks like because it's not live yet, but knowing how Bluetti does things in the past, they're going to have many combos on there, probably including some solar panels, so just pick whatever you think is going to be best for your needs. But this combo right here is starting at $29.99, and that price isn't going to last. As soon as they sell out a certain number of those, the price is going to go to regular early bird, and that's going to bump up probably a few $100. This video is coming out on September 1st, 2022, so that's going to be the day of the best price. So if you think about it, $29.99 for a 5,000 watt solar generator, that's only 60 cents a watt. That is just about as cheap as it gets in the real world. So if you're interested in the AC500 power station from Bluetti, the link is in the description of this video below. I'm also going to put a link here at the bottom of the screen with a QR code that you can scan on any mobile device. It'll take you over to their page where you can go ahead and check out the new fantastic Bluetti AC500. Thanks for watching. If you learned something today, don't forget to give me that thumbs up below. And if you're not a subscriber already, you know what to do. That's it for now. Till next time.
Odin commands you to like and subscribe, and clean my litter box.
If your search for a Sultan is a pain in the neck, go to YouTube and watch HOBOTECH, 'cause he's a testing this and he's a probing that. He's even been probing Odin his cat. If you want to get all the soaking back, go to HOBOTECH. Yeah!
RV Golf Guy. Von Rupp. Brian Lubers. John Stason Sirocco. Dr. Steve Eisenman.